Admiral Park Tae-ho stood at the massive viewing window of Nexus Prime Station. The fortress world below looked like a metal ball covered in lights. Ships from 12 different alien races filled the space around it. Some looked like giant bugs, with wings. Others were shaped like triangles or long tubes. Park had never seen so many different kinds of starships in one place. "They are all here to talk about us," said Captain Lee Bin, standing beside him. She was looking at her data pad. "The humans. They think we are a problem." Park nodded. He had read the reports. Earth's ships had been moving into new star systems. The aliens did not like this. For thousands of years, they had divided up space, between themselves. Now humans were changing things. "Sir, they are ready for you," said a voice behind them. Park turned to see a tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms. This was a Nexari, one of the peaceful races. They usually stayed out of fights. The meeting room was huge. A round table sat in the center with chairs of different sizes. Some were made for creatures that crawled. Others were built for beings that floated. Park and Lee took their seats at the human section. The other aliens stared at them. Commander Veltar spoke first. He was a saurid, looking like a giant lizard, that walked on 2 legs. His scales were dark green and his eyes were yellow. "We have a problem," he said in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. "The humans are spreading too fast. They take systems that belong to others." General Thexnor made a clicking sound. The insectoid alien had 6 legs and compound eyes. When he spoke, it sounded like many voices at once. "The Hive agrees. Humans do not follow proper protocols. They expand without permission." Park stood, up slowly. "We follow the same rules everyone else follows. We only take empty systems or ones that nobody claims." Veltar laughed. It was not a nice sound. "You take systems, and then you change everything. You build strange bases. You use weird tactics. You do not fight like civilized beings." "How should we fight?" Park asked. "With honor," said Commander Zalek of the Crystallite race. His body looked like living glass. "With formations, with proven strategies. Your people fight like wild animals." Lee stood up next to Park. "Our tactics work. We win our battles." "Because you cheat," hissed Veltar. "You use tricks and lies. Real warriors fight with strength and courage." Park felt his anger rising, but he kept his voice calm. "We use our minds. We think of new ways to solve problems." General Thexnor's many voices buzzed with amusement. "The Hive has seen your new ways. You send small ships instead of big ones. You attack from different directions. You never do the same thing twice. It is chaos." "It works," Park said simply. The other aliens around the table began making their own sounds of disagreement. Some roared, others clicked, and a few made musical tones. They were all saying the same thing. Humans were doing war wrong. Admiral Kethran of the Voidwalkers raised a tentacle for silence. Her race looked like floating jellyfish made of dark energy. "The point is not whether human tactics work," she said in a voice like wind through caves. "The point is that they disrupt the natural order." "What natural order?" Park asked. "The order we have maintained for 10,000 years, Veltar said. "We fight with honor. We use formations that have been tested in 1,000,000 battles. We follow the rules of war that keep the galaxy stable." Park looked around the table. Every alien face showed the same expression, contempt. They thought humans were stupid. They thought human ways were wrong. "I have something to show you," Park said. He activated his holographic display. A star map appeared above the table. Red dots marked the edge of known space. "Our long-range sensors are picking up something strange in the void sector." The aliens leaned forward to look. The void sector was empty space beyond the galactic rim. Nothing lived there. Nothing should be there. "These energy readings are massive," Park continued. "Something big is moving toward our galaxy. Something we have never seen before." Veltar waved a clawed hand. "Human sensors are primitive. This is probably just cosmic background radiation." "No," Park said firmly. Our science teams have run the numbers dozens of times. Something is coming. Something dangerous. General Thexnor clicked dismissively. Even if something is coming, what does this have to do with human expansion? We need to work together, Park said. We need to combine our fleets and prepare for whatever is out there. The room erupted in alien laughter. It sounded like a zoo at feeding time. Veltar was laughing so hard his scales changed color. Work with humans? Follow human leadership? We propose a joint defense plan, Lee said, trying to be heard over the noise. Earth's ships can take point positions while your larger fleets provide support. This made them laugh even harder. Admiral Kethron's tentacles quivered with amusement. Barely evolved apes want to lead the galaxy's finest military minds. You have been in space for what, 200 years? Asked Commander Zalek. We have been fighting wars since before your son was born. Park felt his face getting hot. Age does not always mean wisdom. It means experience, Veltar said. It means knowing what works and what does not. Your chaotic methods might work against pirates and rebels, but real threats require real strategies. The meeting continued for 3 more hours. The aliens spent most of the time making fun of human tactics. They called humans space barbarians and cosmic children. They said human fleets looked like scattered debris instead of proper battle formations. When Park tried to show them more sensor data from the void sector, they refused to look. When Lee suggested joint training exercises, they laughed. When Park asked them to at least keep their communication channels open, they said humans had nothing worth hearing. Finally, Veltar stood up. We have decided, he announced. The great races of the galaxy will form our own coalition. We will handle any threats that emerge. Humans can go back to playing with their little ships. You are making a mistake, Park said. The only mistake, said General Thexnor, would be trusting beings who think war is a game of chance. The meeting ended with the aliens agreeing to exclude Earth from all military planning. They would share no intelligence. They would coordinate no strategies. They would treat humans like a minor nuisance that could be ignored. As Park and Lee walked back to their shuttle, Lee shook her head. They will not listen. No, Park agreed. They think they know everything because they are old. They think their way is the only way because it worked before. What do we do now? Park looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, something was coming toward them. His gut told him it was something terrible, something that would test every fleet in the galaxy. We prepare, he said. We get ready in our own way. And when the time comes, we show them that sometimes the best strategy is the one nobody expects. The human shuttle left Nexus Prime Station carrying a cargo of wounded pride and growing worry. Behind them, the alien coalition began planning, their perfect, time-tested response to threats that had not yet revealed themselves. None of them knew that in the cold depths of the void sector, something vast and hungry was already watching them. 3 months passed since the meeting at Nexus Prime. Dr. Kim Soo-jin was working late in her lab on Earth's orbital research station when the first reports came in. She was studying alien biology samples when her computer started beeping with urgent messages. Colony Sigma 7 has gone dark, her assistant told her over the communication link. No response to any signals. Kim frowned. Sigma 7 was a mining colony on the edge of human space. Sometimes mining operations lost contact due to solar storms or equipment failures. Send a patrol ship to check on them. We did, her assistant said. The patrol ship disappeared too. Now Kim was worried. She called up the star charts on her wall display. Sigma 7 was close to the void sector, the same area Admiral Park had been warning about. Over the next week, more colonies went silent, not just human colonies. Alien settlements started disappearing too. First 1, then 3, then a dozen. Each time, rescue ships went to investigate and never came back. Colonel Yoon Dae was in the Earth Defense Force Command Center when the pattern became clear. He stood in front of a huge map showing the galaxy. Red dots marked every lost colony and ship. The dots formed a line moving inward from the void sector. It's not random, he told his staff. Something is moving through space, destroying everything in its path. Lieutenant Cha-min, a young pilot with bright eyes and quick hands, raised her hand. Sir, what if they are not destroying? What if they are taking? Taking what? Everything, the colonies, the ships, even the space around them. Look at the sensor readings. Yoon looked at the data Cha had collected. Where the red dots marked lost systems, space itself seemed different. Energy readings were strange, matter seemed to be missing. It was like something had eaten holes in reality. What kind of weapon could do this? Yoon asked. Maybe not a weapon, Cha said. Maybe something alive. Dr. Kim got her first look at the enemy 2 weeks later. A damaged probe had somehow escaped from the attack on Colony Beta 12. The video it carried made her stomach turn cold. The attackers looked like living metal ships that changed shape as they moved. They flowed like liquid but struck like hammers. When they touched something, a building, a ship, even a planet's surface, that thing simply vanished, not destroyed or broken. Gone, as if it had never existed. They are called devourers, Kim reported to the emergency council meeting. They appear to consume matter at the quantum level. They turn everything they touch into energy for themselves. Admiral Park listened to her report with growing dread. This was what his sensors had detected months ago. This was what the alien coalition had refused to take seriously. How do we fight them? Asked General Nam Ki-young, Earth's Special Operations Commander. We don't know yet, Kim admitted. Normal weapons pass right through them. They seem to absorb energy attacks. Physical impacts do nothing. While Kim studied the enemy, the galaxy's alien powers were forming their response. The Grand Coalition assembled the largest military fleet in galactic history. 50,000 ships from 12 different races gathered at the staging point of Kepler Station. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Fang. Through the viewports, he could see the assembled might of galactic civilization. Massive crystallite dreadnoughts floated next to sleek Voidwalker destroyers. Saurid battle cruisers formed perfect lines with Nexari support vessels. This is how war should be fought, Veltar told his officers. With power, with order, with the combined strength of civilized races. The coalition fleet was organized according to ancient military doctrine. Battle groups formed geometric patterns that had been tested in thousands of conflicts. Each ship knew its place and its role. Command structures were clear and simple. Battle plans followed proven strategies. The humans have only 5,000 ships, reported General Thexnor during the coalition planning meeting. And they are scattered across 50 different systems. No formation, no coordination, no real plan. They will be the first to fall, predicted Admiral Kethrin. Their chaotic methods cannot stand against this threat. Meanwhile, Earth's smaller fleet was indeed scattered. Captain Oh Hyun commanded a stealth frigate near the contested zone. Her ship was alone, hiding behind an asteroid field, watching and waiting. Why are we out here by ourselves? Asked her weapons officer. Shouldn't we group up with the main fleet? Orders from Admiral Park, Oh replied. We are the eyes and ears. We watch and learn. Earth's strategy was completely different from the coalition approach. Instead of one massive fleet, humans had divided their forces into hundreds of small units. Some ships worked alone. Others operated in pairs or small groups. They moved constantly, never staying in one place for long. To the aliens, it looked like panic, like a broken military force, running in all directions. The alien commanders broadcast their predictions. Humans will be extinct within 1 galactic month. Lieutenant Ko Yuna was monitoring communications from her listening post when she intercepted something important. She was young for her rank, but she had a gift for understanding alien languages and codes. Sir, she called to her commander, I'm picking up Devourer communications. They communicate? Yes, but it's strange. They seem to be sharing information about everything they encounter. Every ship design, every weapon type, every tactical formation. It's like they are learning from everything they destroy. This information reached Dr. Kim within hours. She sat in her lab staring at the data when the truth hit her like a cold wind. They are not just consuming matter, she said out loud to her empty lab. They are consuming information. Every ship they destroy teaches them something new. She called an emergency meeting with Earth's military leaders. The Devourers learn from everything they encounter, she explained. The more organized and predictable our tactics, the faster they can adapt to them. Colonel Yoon understood immediately. That's why our scattered approach might work. We're not giving them patterns to learn from. Exactly, Kim said. Chaos is our advantage. Unpredictability is our weapon. But the alien coalition did not know this. They continued with their careful, methodical preparations. Their battle plans were works of art, complex, detailed, and based on thousands of years of military experience. General Nam Ki-young watched the coalition fleet from Earth's observation posts. They are flying straight into a trap, he told Admiral Park. The Devourers will learn everything from their formations and tactics. Should we warn them? Asked Captain Jian Wu, commander of a rescue ship. Park thought about the meeting at Nexus Prime. He remembered how the aliens had laughed at him, how they had dismissed human concerns, how they had excluded Earth from their plans. We tried to warn them, Park said sadly. They chose not to listen. The coalition fleet began its advance toward the Devourer front lines. 50,000 ships moved in perfect formation. Their sensors swept space ahead of them. Their weapons were charged and ready. Their commanders were confident. Back on Earth, Dr. Kim worked frantically to understand the enemy. She had pieces of Devourer material that had been recovered from attack sites. Under her microscope, the material looked like it was alive. It moved and changed even when separated from the main body. They are not machines, she realized. They are some kind of collective organism, like a hive mind, but made of living metal. Lieutenant Chamin had an idea. If they learn from patterns, what happens if we show them something that has no pattern? What if we are completely random? That might work, Kim said. But how do you make a military force completely random? You let humans be humans, Cha said with a grin. As the coalition fleet moved toward its date with destiny, Earth's scattered ships continued their strange dance through space. They followed no formations. They used no standard tactics. Each ship's captain was told to improvise and adapt. To military minds trained in proper warfare, it looked like madness. But Dr. Kim was beginning to think that madness might be exactly what they needed. The galaxy was about to learn which approach would survive contact with an enemy that could learn from anything except pure, creative chaos. The Grand Coalition fleet was a sight that would have made poets weep. 50,000 ships moved through space in perfect formation. The largest vessels were saurid dreadnoughts, each one as big as a small moon. Their dark hulls bristled with weapons that could crack planets. Behind them came the crystallite battle cruisers, their transparent hulls glowing with contained energy. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the fleet advance. Every ship was in its proper place. Every formation was textbook perfect. Communications flowed in orderly patterns between vessels. This was how civilized beings made war. Enemy contact in 6 hours, reported his tactical officer. Long-range sensors showed Devourer forces massing at the Theta Nebula. Good, Veltar said. Let them mass. We will show them the power of organized military might. The coalition had spent weeks planning this attack. Their strategy was based on the Combined Fleet Manual, a document refined over 10,000 years of galactic warfare. First, the heavy ships would establish a defensive perimeter. Then, the medium vessels would probe enemy weaknesses. Finally, the entire fleet would advance in coordinated waves, overwhelming any resistance through superior firepower and tactics. It was a plan that had never failed. General Nam Ki-young watched. The coalition advanced from his command ship hidden in the shadow of a gas giant. His job was to observe and report, but watching the alien fleet made him nervous. They are beautiful, said Major Song Yu-jin, standing beside him. She commanded, a marine unit that specialized in boarding actions. Look at those formations. Every ship knows exactly where to be. That's what worries me, Nam replied. They are too perfect, too predictable. While the coalition moved toward battle, Earth's forces continued their scattered operations throughout the region. Captain Oh Hyun's stealth ship was tracking a small, group of Devourers near the Cygnus cluster. She watched as the alien ships flowed through space like living mercury. "They are studying something," her sensor officer reported. "Looks like wreckage from a coalition patrol that got too close." O watched through her ship's cameras as the Devourers surrounded the wreckage. Tentacles of living metal reached out to touch the destroyed vessels. Where they touched, the metal dissolved and was absorbed. "They are learning," O whispered. "Learning how our ships are built, how our weapons work, how we think." The information went straight to Dr. Kim Soo-jin, who was now working around the clock in her expanded laboratory. She had samples of Devourer material from a dozen different encounters. Each sample was slightly different, as if the creatures were evolving with every battle. "They adapt faster than anything in nature," she told her research team. "A normal organism takes generations to evolve. These things do it in real time." Lieutenant Cha Min had been flying reconnaissance missions near Devourer territory. Her small fighter was fast and hard to detect. She had seen things that gave her nightmares. "They don't just copy our technology," she reported to Colonel Yoon. "They improve it. I saw them take the weapons from a destroyed Nixari cruiser and make them twice as powerful." Yoon shared this information with Admiral Park, who felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. The Coalition fleet was walking into a trap, and they didn't know it. "Should we try to contact them again?" asked Captain Lee Bin. Park thought about it. The Coalition commanders had made it clear they wanted nothing to do with human advice. Commander Veltar had called humans space barbarians. General Thexner had said human tactics were chaos without purpose. "They won't listen," Park said finally. "They think we are primitives playing with forces beyond our understanding." Meanwhile, the Coalition fleet reached the edge of Devourer space. Their sensors detected massive enemy formations ahead. The Devourers had assembled their own fleet, thousands of ships that seemed to shift and change as they moved. "Enemy fleet composition is unusual," reported the Coalition's chief tactical officer. "Ship types do not match any known classifications." "Because they are not ships," said General Thexnor from his command vessel. "They are abominations. We will destroy them and cleanse the galaxy of this corruption." The first phase of the Coalition battle plan began exactly on schedule. Heavy dreadnoughts formed a defensive wall while fast attack ships moved forward to probe enemy positions. It was a classic opening gambit, one that had worked for millennia. The Devourers responded by copying them exactly. "Sir," the tactical officer said, confusion in his voice. "The enemy is forming the same defensive pattern we are." Veltar laughed. "They think mimicry will save them. They do not understand that these formations require skill and training to use properly." But the Devourers were learning fast. Within minutes, their formation was not just copying the Coalition pattern, it was improving it. Gaps that existed in the alien formation were filled. Weaknesses were corrected. The Devourer defensive line became stronger than the original. "How is this possible?" asked Admiral Kethran. The answer came from Dr. Kim's laboratory. She had been studying fragments of destroyed Devourer vessels when she made a terrible discovery. "They are not individual ships," she broadcast to any human vessels that would listen. "The entire fleet is one organism. Every ship shares the same mind." Captain Bayek Seon, monitoring the battle from her intelligence ship, understood immediately. A hive mind that can process information from thousands of sources at once. They can learn and adapt faster than any individual commander. The Coalition's second phase began with coordinated strikes against what appeared to be command vessels in the Devourer fleet. Precise targeting had always been effective against enemy headquarters, but there were no headquarters to target. The Devourer fleet had no command structure because every ship was part of the same mind. Destroying one vessel just made the others stronger as they absorbed the lessons learned from its destruction. "Our weapons are having no effect," reported O. Crystallite Captain. "The enemy adapts to each weapon type after the first few hits." "Impossible," Veltar snarled. "No defense can adapt that quickly." He was wrong. The Devourers were not just adapting to Coalition weapons, they were learning to use them better than their creators. Energy beams that struck Devourer ships were absorbed, analyzed, and fired back with improved efficiency. Commander O watched from her hiding place as the battle developed. "This is not going well," she told her crew. "The Coalition is fighting exactly the way the Devourers want them to fight." Lieutenant Ko Yuna intercepted communications between Coalition vessels. The calm, professional chatter of the early battle was turning into confusion and fear. Unknown energy signature. Weapons ineffective. They're using our own tactics against us. The third phase of the Coalition battle plan called for a massive coordinated assault. All 50,000 ships would advance in perfect synchronization, overwhelming the enemy through sheer force. It was the worst possible decision. The Devourers met the advance with an identical formation, but their version was perfect in a way that no organic crew could achieve. Every ship moved in exact coordination. Every weapon fired at the optimal moment. Every defensive maneuver was flawlessly timed. "They fight like machines," breathed Major Song Yu-jin, watching the battle through long-range sensors. "No," said General Nam, "machines follow programs. These things are thinking, learning, becoming better with every second of combat." The Coalition fleet began to take serious losses. Ships that had survived 1,000 battles were cut apart by weapons they themselves had created. Defensive formations that had protected civilizations for millennia were turned against their creators. Panic spread through the Coalition ranks. Some ships broke formation and tried to retreat. Others pressed forward in desperate attacks. The careful order that had defined galactic warfare for 10,000 years shattered like glass. "Reform the lines," Veltar roared over the communications network. "Return to formation." But it was too late. The Devourers had learned everything they needed to know about Coalition tactics. They could predict every move, counter every strategy, and improve upon every formation. Dr. Kim watched the battle data streaming into her laboratory and felt sick. "They are learning from the chaos too," she said. "Every time a Coalition ship breaks formation, the Devourers study the new pattern. The Coalition fleet was doomed, and they didn't even know it yet. Their greatest strength, their tradition of disciplined, organized warfare, had become their greatest weakness. Every lesson they had learned over 10,000 years was being used against them by an enemy that could master those lessons in minutes." On Earth, Admiral Park stood in the command center, watching reports stream in from the battle. His worst fears were coming true. The galaxy's finest military force was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that turned their own excellence against them. "Sir," said Captain Lee, "should we move our forces to assist?" Park looked at the tactical display. Earth's 5,000 ships were scattered across 100 systems, each one following unpredictable patterns. It looked like chaos compared to the Coalition's organized formations. "No," he said quietly. "We stay scattered. We stay random. Because the moment we form up like a proper fleet, we become just another lesson for them to learn." The battle was only 3 hours old, but the outcome was already clear. The Grand Coalition was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is one that learns from your strengths. The Grand Coalition fleet had been fighting for 6 hours. What started as a confident advance had turned into a nightmare. Ships that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years were being torn apart by weapons they had created themselves. Commander Veltar gripped the arms of his command chair as another explosion shook his flagship. Through the viewports, he could see Coalition vessels disappearing in flashes of light. But these were not normal explosions. The ships were not breaking apart. They were simply ceasing to exist. "Damage report," he called out. "Hull integrity at 60%, his engineering officer replied. "But sir, the enemy is using our own weapon frequencies against us. They know exactly how to penetrate our shields." This was impossible. Saurid military technology was the result of 50,000 years of development. Their weapons and defenses had been tested in countless wars. No enemy should be able to understand them so quickly. But the Devourers were not like any enemy the galaxy had ever faced. They were learning faster than anything should be able to learn. Commander Baek-Seon watched the battle from her intelligence vessel, hidden behind a debris field. Her job was to observe and report, but what she was seeing made no sense according to everything she knew about warfare. The Devourers are not just copying Coalition tactics, she reported to Earth Command. They are perfecting them. Every formation the Coalition uses, the Devourers use better. On the Crystallite flagship Eternal Light, Admiral Zalmoran was experiencing the same terrible realization. His transparent ship was surrounded by the shattered remains of his battle group. The enemy had turned his own crystal-based weapons into beams of pure destruction that cut through crystallite hulls like they were made of paper. "How are they doing this?" he asked his tactical officer. "Unknown, sir. They seem to understand our technology better than we do." Captain John Woo was commanding a human rescue ship at the edge of the battle zone. His orders were to pick up survivors and stay out of the fighting. But there were fewer survivors to rescue than anyone had expected. "The Coalition ships are not just being destroyed," he reported to Admiral Park. "They are being unmade, like someone is erasing them from reality." Dr. Kim Soo-jin had been studying the energy readings from the battle. What she found made her blood run cold. "The Devourers are not just learning from the ships they fight," she told the Emergency Council meeting. "They are learning from the ships they destroy. Every vessel they eliminate adds to their knowledge." This explained why the battle was going so badly. Each Coalition ship that fell made the Devourers smarter. Each tactic that failed became a lesson the enemy could use against the remaining fleet. General Thexnor's command ship was one of the largest in the Coalition fleet. The insectoid general had lived through 100 battles, but nothing had prepared him for this. His enemies were using hive mind coordination tactics better than his own people, who had invented them. "The enemy fights like us," he told his sub-commanders through their mental link. "But they do it perfectly. No hesitation, no mistakes, no individual thoughts to slow them down." "How do we counter an enemy that uses our own perfection against us?" asked one of his officers. Thexnor had no answer. For the first time in his long military career, he was facing a problem that could not be solved by superior tactics or firepower. Meanwhile, Admiral Kethron was discovering that her Void, Walker Fleet's greatest advantage, had become their greatest weakness. Her ships could phase in and out of normal space, appearing and disappearing at will. It was a technique that had won countless battles. But the Devourers learned to phase better than the Void Walkers. Enemy ships began appearing inside Coalition formations, materializing in places that should have been impossible to reach. "They are using our own dimensional technology," her science officer reported, "but they have improved it. They can phase into spaces we cannot even detect." The Coalition's carefully planned battle formations were falling apart. Ships tried to retreat to secondary positions, but the Devourers anticipated every move, every fallback plan, every emergency protocol, every backup strategy. The enemy knew them all. Lieutenant Ko Yuna was monitoring all Coalition communication channels from her listening post. What she heard told the story of a military disaster unlike anything in galactic history. "Mayday, Mayday, this is the Nexari cruiser Peaceful Dawn. We are under attack by our own weapons. Coalition Command, this is Battle Group 7. The enemy is using sordid battle tactics. They know our formations better than we do. Unknown contacts phasing into our defensive perimeter. They move like Void Walkers but fight like us." Each transmission was more desperate than the last. The Coalition fleet was not just losing, it was being systematically dismantled by an enemy that had turned their greatest strengths into weapons against them. Captain Oh Hyun's stealth ship was close enough to see individual battles. She watched in horror as a Devourer vessel approached a damaged Coalition cruiser. The alien ship did not fire weapons or launch missiles. Instead, it simply touched the cruiser with a tendril of living metal. The cruiser began to dissolve. Not explode, not break apart, dissolve, like it was made of sugar in the rain. Within minutes, there was nothing left but empty space and floating energy patterns. "They are not destroying the ships," O reported. "They are absorbing them, converting them into energy and information." Dr. Kim received this report and finally understood the full horror of what they were facing. "The Devourers don't just learn from battle," she said. "They consume the knowledge of everything they touch. Every ship they absorb makes them smarter." By the 10th hour of battle, the Coalition fleet was in full retreat, but there was nowhere to run. The Devourers had learned to predict every possible escape route. They could phase block like Voidwalkers, intercept like Nexari, and pursue like Saurids, all at the same time. Commander Veltar's flagship was one of the last major vessels still fighting. His crew was exhausted and his ship was falling apart, but he refused to surrender. Saurid honor demanded that he fight to the end. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "I'm receiving a transmission from the enemy." This was the first time the Devourers had attempted direct communication. Veltar ordered the message to be put on speakers throughout the ship. What they heard was their own voice. The Devourers were speaking in perfect Saurid military dialect, using words and phrases that only trained officers would know. "Your tactics are adequate," the voice said. "Your formations show promise. Your weapons demonstrate functional design. We thank you for the education." The transmission ended. Within minutes, Veltar's ship was surrounded by Devourers that moved with perfect, Saurid precision. They attacked using modified versions of his own battle plans, improved beyond anything his people had ever achieved. The Eternal Fang lasted exactly 17 minutes against enemies that fought like idealized versions of himself. Major Song Yujin was aboard one of the last rescue ships in the area. Her job was to pick up escape pods and survivors. But there were no escape pods. There were no survivors. Ships that were touched by the Devourers simply ceased to exist, taking their crews with them. "It's like they were never there," she reported, to General Nam. "No wreckage, no debris, no bodies, just empty space where 50,000 ships used to be." The reality was worse than that. The Devourers had not just destroyed the Coalition fleet, they had unmade it. Every ship, every weapon, every tactical innovation of 10,000 years of galactic civilization had been absorbed and turned into knowledge for the enemy. Admiral Catherine's ship was among the last to fall. As Devourer vessels closed in around you, she sent one final transmission to any allies who might be listening. "They know everything we know," she said. "Every tactic, every formation, every strategy. They are us, but perfect. Warn the others. Traditional warfare is useless against them." The transmission cut off as her ship dissolved into quantum foam. 18 hours after it began, the Battle of Theta Nebula was over. The Grand Coalition fleet, 50,000 ships representing the combined military might of galactic civilization, had vanished without a trace. No survivors, no wreckage, no evidence they had ever existed except for the energy readings that marked their passing. Emergency broadcasts spread across the galaxy within hours. The impossible had happened. The greatest military force in galactic history had been completely destroyed by an enemy that learned to be better than them at their own game. On Earth, Admiral Park stood in the command center, reading the final reports. Around him, his staff worked in stunned silence. Everyone understood what this meant. The old rules of warfare were finished. Everything that had protected galactic civilization for 10,000 years was now useless. "Sir," Captain Lee said quietly, "we're receiving refugees, alien civilian ships fleeing the battle zone. They're asking for sanctuary." Park nodded. "Give them whatever they need. They've lost everything, including their confidence in the military systems that had kept them safe for so long. The aliens who had mocked human tactics were gone. The generals who had called humans primitive had vanished along with their fleets." Dr. Kim's final analysis was grimly simple. The Devourers now possessed the combined military cane. The news of the Coalition's destruction spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Entire civilizations that had felt secure for thousands of years suddenly realized they were defenseless. Panic gripped every inhabited world as reports came in of the Devourers advancing deeper into galactic space. On the Crystallite homeworld, crowds gathered around public information displays, watching in horror as the list of lost colonies grew longer by the hour. Their greatest military minds were gone, absorbed by an enemy that now knew everything about Crystallite warfare. The Nexari Council called an emergency session as refugee ships filled their spaceports. Peaceful traders and diplomats who had never seen war were now faced with an enemy that could not be reasoned with or bargained with. Even the proud Saurids, who had boasted of their military supremacy for 50,000 years, were in full retreat. Their remaining fleets pulled back to defend their core worlds, knowing that their traditional tactics were worse than useless against the Devourers. In the chaos and fear that followed the Coalition's defeat, many voices blamed humanity. Earth's unconventional tactics, they said, had weakened the galaxy's defenses. Human chaos had somehow made the Devourers stronger. If the humans had followed proper protocol, declared High Commander Velkine, one of the few surviving Saurid officers, the Coalition would have succeeded. Their chaotic influence corrupted our perfect formations. But Admiral Shinju Wan, newly appointed commander of Earth's Expeditionary Force, had a different perspective. She was studying battle reports from the few human ships that had witnessed the Coalition's destruction. The Devourers won because the Coalition fought exactly the way they expected, she told the Earth Defense Council. Every move was predictable. Every formation was from their training manuals. The enemy learned their patterns and used them better than they did. Dr. Lim Hei-wan, working in her quantum physics laboratory, was developing a new understanding of how the Devourers operated. She had been studying the energy signatures left behind after their attacks. They exist in a state of organized quantum coherence, she explained to her research team. Every particle in their collective is connected to every other particle. Information flows instantly between all parts of their fleet. This meant the Devourers could process information faster than any normal mind. They could learn from 1,000 battles simultaneously and apply those lessons in real time. No organic intelligence could match their ability to adapt and improve. But there might be a weakness, Dr. Lim continued. Quantum systems require ordered states to function. They can process organized information very efficiently, but true randomness might disrupt their coherence. Meanwhile, Captain Kang Bo-Ra was testing this theory in the most dangerous way possible. Her ship, the Dancing Crane, was one of the first human vessels equipped with experimental entropy drives, engines that used controlled quantum uncertainty for propulsion. Normal engines work by converting fuel into directed energy, she explained to her crew. Our entropy drive works by converting order into chaos. We literally run on randomness. The entropy drive did more than just move the ship. It made the vessel exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. At any given moment, the Dancing Crane might be in several different locations at once, following several different courses, carrying several different weapon loads. The Devourers can predict what a normal ship will do, Kang told her tactical officer, but they can't predict something that exists in multiple states at the same time. When Kang's ship encountered its first Devourer patrol, the results were startling. The enemy vessels approached using standard interception patterns, the same maneuvers they had learned from destroying Coalition ships. But when they tried to target the Dancing Crane, their weapons passed through empty space. We are here and not here, Kang reported to Earth Command. The entropy drive makes us too random for them to lock onto. Better yet, when the Dancing Crane fired back, its weapons worked. The Devourers' quantum coherence made them vulnerable to truly random attacks. Their organized state could not process or adapt to pure chaos. This success led to the rapid development of Earth's new entropy fleet. Working with refugee scientists from the fallen Coalition worlds, human engineers began building ships that ran on controlled randomness. Dr. Kim Soo-jin, now leading the combined alien-human research effort, made another crucial discovery. The Devourers learn by consuming organized information, she told the Joint Scientific Council. But chaos is not information in any way they can understand. The first major test came when a Devourer fleet attacked the Rigel system. Instead of defending with traditional formations, Admiral Shin deployed her entropy ships in what she called beautiful chaos. No two ships followed the same course. No vessel used the same tactics twice. Some ships fought alone. Others formed temporary groups that dissolved and reformed randomly. Weapons fired in patterns that had no pattern. Movements followed courses that even the human commanders didn't fully understand. The result was the first major victory against the Devourers. Faced with an enemy that made no sense, that followed no rules, that existed in multiple states at once, the alien collective faltered. Their perfect learning system could not process pure randomness. They are trying to understand us, reported Captain Oh Hyun, watching the battle from her stealth ship. But there is nothing to understand. We are not following any system they can learn from. News of the victory at Rigel spread across the galaxy faster than the panic had. For the first time since the Coalition's destruction, civilized beings had hope. The Devourers could be beaten, but only by abandoning everything that made sense about warfare. This created a problem. Most alien military officers had been trained for thousands of years in proper tactics. Asking them to fight randomly was like asking them to forget how to breathe. Captain Jian Wu found himself training crystallite refugees in chaos combat. The transparent beings struggled with concepts that went against everything they had learned. "You want us to attack without coordination?" asked Commander Zalneth, a surviving crystallite officer. "Not without coordination," Jian explained. "With chaotic coordination. Work together, but in ways that make no sense. Help each other, but unpredictably." Some alien survivors adapted quickly. Lieutenant Ko Yuna worked with a group of young Nexari, pilots who had natural talent for improvisation. Their peaceful culture had always valued creativity over rigid military thinking. "We can do this," said pilot Kethmira. "Our ancestors were explorers, not soldiers. We know how to make things up as we go along." But older, more experienced alien officers struggled. General Nam Ki-young found himself counseling a Saurid veteran who had survived the Coalition disaster. "I have fought in 300 battles," the alien said. "I know every formation, every tactic, every strategy. How do I forget everything I have learned?" "You don't forget it," Nam replied. "You use it as a starting point for something new. Take what you know and twist it. Make it strange. Make it wrong by the old standards." The entropy fleet grew rapidly, as more ships were converted to quantum uncertainty drives. But the real breakthrough came when Dr. Lim discovered how to weaponize chaos itself. "We can create quantum static bombs," she explained to Admiral Park. "Weapons that spread randomness through space. Any devourer caught in the blast becomes too chaotic to maintain coherence." The first chaos bombs were tested against a devourer invasion force attacking the Vega system. The weapons didn't destroy the alien ships, they scrambled them. The perfect quantum order that gave the devourers their power dissolved into random noise. "They are still alive," reported Major Song Yu-jin, observing the aftermath. "But they can't function. They have been turned into quantum soup." As Earth's new tactics proved successful, more alien survivors joined the entropy fleets, but they had to learn to think like humans, creatively, chaotically, without rigid adherence to proven methods. Captain Kang found herself commanding a mixed crew of humans and aliens aboard her ship. Teaching them to work together in controlled chaos was like conducting an orchestra where every musician played a different song. "Today we will attack using Saurid formations," she announced during one battle briefing. "But we will execute them backwards, upside down, and inside out. We will use crystallite weapons in Nexari patterns while moving like voidwalkers having a bad day." Her crew laughed. That was important too. Humor was inherently chaotic. It was one more element the Devourers could not understand or predict. As the war continued, humanity found itself in the strangest position in galactic history. The primitive race that had been mocked for their chaotic methods was now teaching advanced civilizations how to fight effectively. The irony was not lost on Admiral Park. "6 months ago, they called us space barbarians," he said to Captain Lee. "Now they are asking us to teach their children how to be random." But the greatest victory was still to come. Dr. Lim's research had revealed the location of the Devourer homeworld, a massive structure in the void sector where their quantum collective originated. "If we can disrupt their core coherence," she told the War Council, "the entire species will collapse into chaos. But it will require the largest entropy attack in history." Admiral Shin began planning the final assault.